So I do have some slides today, and if I can have my first slide up now, I want to talk about three specific questions. What are the current strengths, the strength of our current partnerships with Chinese organisations with respect to publishing? What are the key opportunities for more international collaboration? So I want very much to look to the future. And what are the important criteria for us in how we assess partnerships and what makes them successful, which I hope will provide some learning to some other organisations. So I can go to my next slide, please. Strengths of current partnerships, and I think there are two main areas that we focus on here. The first is where Western publishers work successfully with Chinese organisations and individuals to enable greater international understanding, i.e. outside of China, of Chinese culture and language. And that for us as a university press who is focused on excellence in research and education, that for us is a very important part of our mission. We very much want this to be a two-way street rather than us just getting access to the Chinese market. And here we have just a few examples of successful initiatives in that respect. Lord Green this morning mentioned that he was very much hoping that Chinese authors would get a window onto the rest of the world. The two titles to the left are examples of just that. Ex-Chinese leaders Li Lanqing and Zhu Rongji, who have published books in China, monographs that we were able to bring to the rest of the world. And we see this is very important that these Chinese officials and their voices are brought to Western audiences. And we're increasingly publishing more and more books on China. When I look at our academic list, each year the number of titles focused on China increases. And they do feed the world's growing fascination. You know, the importance of China cannot be denied. It was spoken of at length this morning, and we see great demand for that, and we see it as an important part of what we're here to do. Of course, I couldn't give this speech without mentioning the Oxford Chinese Dictionary here, which was launched in 2010 with our partners FLTRP in China. It took 6 years to produce. There are editorial teams in the UK, in Hong Kong and mainland China, and it's without doubt the largest and most authoritative Mandarin Chinese bilingual dictionary, and it's helping to bring English to China and Mandarin to the English-speaking world as well. Second aspect, or second strength to our partnerships, if I can have my next slide, is enabling the learning of English in China to a higher standard, which is something that not only Oxford University Press is engaged in, as you heard this morning, and I'm sure you'll hear for the rest of the morning, many of our colleagues in the UK and American publishing industry are focused on. And here are just a few examples of some of the titles that we have with partners here. Fun with English, Advanced with English, name one of the most influential English language educational publications in China. Also importantly, the Oxford Advanced Learners Dictionary, which we sell all over the world, but here indeed is a specific version for the Chinese market, which has helped people learn English. I was told this morning that many of our partnerships are in Shanghai, and I don't just claim credit for this to OUP, but the Shanghai educational authorities have been very progressive about bringing international publishers in, and I was told that where these titles have been very successful, the level of attainment in Shanghai in terms of speaking English is 4 times that of the rest of China, and I think that certainly is driven by the fact they have access to such good quality materials brought in partnership by Chinese publishers and English publishers. If I can have my next, my next slide. Now let's talk about areas for the future where we see opportunity, and certainly, without doubt, doing more of what I've just talked about, so helping bring Chinese culture to the West and also English language learning to China. We need to be doing more of that. That will certainly be part of our future opportunity. But I think there are 3 key emerging new opportunities that we're seeing and that we're very focused on in Oxford University Press. The first is working with Chinese organisations to develop high-quality English language scholarly journals. We've all seen the graph showing that China is now the second largest nation in terms of research output measured by journal articles published each year, fast catching up with the US and probably likely to overtake it. We also heard this morning the Vice Minister from GAP talking about how the standards needed to be raised of academic publishing, high-end academic publishing in China. And I think that's a real opportunity, therefore, for a win-win partnership. We're looking to enhance the learning of Chinese scholars and also bring the Chinese and international scholarly communities together. We've got a lot of experience, as do many of our colleague publishers in the West, in terms of publishing high-quality, internationally recognised journals. We publish around 300 journals, small in comparison to some of our commercial publishing competitors, but certainly many of our journals are regarded as very high quality in their fields. So we're already bringing experience and our successful track record in quality development to bear on the Chinese market. And this week, in particular, we are focusing a lot on the idea of launching new journals with some of our Chinese partners. So I see this as a very important partnership for all of us in the future. If I can have my next slide, please. Secondly, we talked this morning about digital and how Chinese publishers are very advanced in their acknowledgement of the importance of digitization and their ability and ambition in embracing digital technology and bringing it to bear on their materials. And Oxford University Press and many of our Western publishing colleagues have great experience of this, particularly in the scholarly market. So we have scholarly digital journals archive, we have monograph archives, all available digitally. But we go way beyond that. We work with the Bodleian Library at Oxford University Press, digitising their archives. For instance, we've just completed the digitisation of something called Electronic Enlightenment, which is a vast collection of 60,000 letters and documents from the 17th and 19th century, which we are making available right around the world. And I know from my dealing with Chinese universities, there is a remarkably rich resource of archive there that we would like to work with partners to digitise and bring to the rest of the world. And I think we see that as an important part of the future. Finally, in terms of future opportunities, I'd like to talk, if I can have my next slide, is the support of Chinese language learning around the world. Of course, we've helped to bring English to the Chinese market, and I know there are increasing numbers learning English there, but the interest in the Chinese economy brings very quickly an interest in the Chinese language, and we know that there are many students around Western economies learning English and in Asian economies as well. And I think, as we've demonstrated, Western publishers' knowledge of how to teach language learning in these markets and Chinese publishers' knowledge of the Chinese language itself and how you learn that can be brought together to bring about really exciting partnerships. And again, I know there's lots of that discussion going on at the fair. So if I can reflect now on what makes a successful partnership, and if I could have my final slide, please. Rather generic statements about what makes a successful partnership. You could probably pull these from any textbook, and indeed we've heard a slightly more nuanced version of this morning when we looked at our two case studies. Partnership must be one of equals. The organisations must share similar missions, have similar ambitions and goals. We shouldn't talk about the point at which we may part company, but you must recognise that objectives and missions are time critical and time sensitive and may expire after a period of time, but if you start with a common objective, you stand to do very well. Long-term commitment. You should not expect things to happen in a year or 2 years. Many of the partnerships that have been successful have gone for many decades, and I think that's an important point. And finally, respect for cultural differences. Again, this is all standard textbook stuff, but I would say if you respect these approaches and these tenets in China, they are even more important, because it is about partnership of equals. The successful partnerships that we have are where we understand that we bring something different to the partnership, whereas more of the same. It's not about just market entry. It needs to have some further objective beyond that, be it bringing language or bringing cultural differences or improving education and therefore economic development. Those are noble objectives that we can all share in. Long-term commitment. University Press, able to trace its origins back over 500 years, understands the meaning of long-term commitment. But I have to say the Chinese publishing industry and the Chinese government as well also very much understand that. They don't expect things to happen overnight. They understand the importance of relationship, and they are not always looking for financial gains after the second year, and that has contributed very much to to past success, and I'm sure it will to future success as well. And cultural differences, nowhere are they more pronounced than in China, between Western publishers and Chinese publishers. And I think it is absolutely incredible the way my colleagues, your colleagues in the industry and our predecessors have worked very much through those cultural differences, now and again embarrassed each other probably by saying the wrong thing perhaps, but always as trust has been built and relationships have strengthened, that's been forgiven and indeed embraced so that we understand we bring something different. So in closing, I would like to say I am impressed by the achievements of the Chinese and the Western publishing industries. I am excited about the opportunities for the future, and I am very optimistic that we are going to be able to work together to realise those. Thank you.